Okay. Okay. We have hit start record. Now, I don't know what order these are coming out, but I recorded a couple of factions on my own because I am a good player. In fact, I am the best player, and I play those factions perfectly. But there are factions that I'm not amazing at. I know. I know. It's hard to believe. But for those factions where I am not actually the best at playing them, we get experts. And today we have the expert in cars to help us Tomb Kings. Hi, in cars.
Hello, it is me.
You're also on my World Cup team, USA 2, and we are going to win.
Yep,
Yes? Yeah, damn right.
yes.
America.
Every series will be 4-1 where I am the loss.
Every game, but we will carry you. All right. So, in case this is your first army build guide you are watching, it goes in two parts. First, we go through every unit, giving you its best case scenario. If it is good, it will be good in this scenario, regardless of what patch we are currently in, because you're probably watching this on a different patch. Then, second part of the video, we'll talk about the current patch and ask Incars to describe a couple builds he would take in theoretical situations and why he would take them. Right, sounds good. Take it away whenever, Mr. Incars.
Alright, so I guess we start at the top with the basic Tomb King. He is the generic melee lord that every roster has. The best I've seen is just he's your cheapest option and he's a decent fighter. I played Gotrek like yesterday, and he took him into my coast, and he actually did a pretty good job of just existing and hitting crabs. So yeah, he's basically the cheap lord. You take him naked or with Tomb Strike, and that's it. He's yeah, very basic.
Okay.
All right, Kalita. Um, Kalita is weird. I want to like her. I want her to be good. Her stats look good, but she's just always disappointing. But I don't know. You take her when you want like a dedicated duelist that's not your caster. Like you, especially on a Necro Serpent, she can hypothetically fight most characters short of like Tyrion. The Venom staff is also really, really good. Like I don't think people realize that. Like you can easily get 600, 700 value off of it alone in games just by firing it off at the right targets, which are basically heavy infantry or single entities, in my opinion, where it's best. But I mean, her main issue is that she's just not as good of a duelist as you would like. Like the Necro Serpent can hit stuff, and on foot she doesn't have AP. So like the places where I'd like to take her, like Coast and Doors, to fight foot characters, like Noctilus and Thoric and whatnot, she struggles to get through the armor, and it just doesn't work as well as you'd like. Now we get onto the actually good lords with Katep. Fuck. Uh, uh, Lord Nakara is, in my opinion, one of the best lords of magic in the game. There is not a bad spell on it. The worst is probably the incantation of desiccation, but even then, it has uses. If you really want to win calf fights and high priority engagements like that, usually just take Jaffs, take your Syrians. You can win most calf fights just with those and just buffer really your front line and just keep spamming them out and attritioning away your opponent. Narrows is good. I've stopped using it as much, mainly because I'd rather have more damage elsewhere than just being a little bit more tanky. And usually, if like the stuff, either the stuff that's taking damage, you don't care about taking damage, or if it's taking damage, it's in a really bad situation already. Patraz is really good on Bow Shopti. just buffing their damage even more. I don't take it too much anymore, but just generally great. Skullstorm is an amazing shaft clearer. It's super cheap, does a ton of damage to stuff like Noblars, any lightly armored units.
I actually
Just
like
great
that
in
versus
general.
high elves.
Yeah.
People were
Yeah,
meaning
high
on
elves
me,
are
but
definitely one.
I took it on Setram
I,
as
I
cat.
remember. Yep, I remember that video. It was against like Elithanar, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I won. And
But
it's definitely
yeah.
not because my opponent took fucking Alethanar.
But yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's good there too. I generally like it, especially on Kata. You pair it up with a sandstorm, it's just a ton of chaff clearing. But yeah, again, best combo is almost always just Jafts and Assyrians. Assyrians is insane. It's still the best cav killing spell in the game. It doesn't delete them like Buna, but I mean, it basically does half of Buna for 10 Winds of Magic. And with Tomb Kings, you can support the damage really well to kill models. And then Jas is just insanely cheap. For like the abilities, Cut Curse, Cut My Will Be Done. They just don't have much impact. The rest I like. Restless Dead is a really good lore passive to bam, keep your army healthy, give you a little bit more health on your lord that you can sometimes need. Uh, Arcane Conduit, just spam out more spells. Then Sandstorm for more clearing. And then the Lich Staff is one of the things that really makes Kotep good, and just a pain in the ass for your opponent. Like, all of a sudden, they're about to cast a Burning Head. Wait, they've got to wait another 15 seconds. And then they don't get it off right away, and then you cast another spell, and they have to keep waiting. And it's just stuff like that that really wears your opponent down over time. For mounts, almost always just foot or horse. I mean, there's like 0 characters in the game that are better on chariots than horses. I sometimes like the casket. It's not great. He becomes really vulnerable on the casket to being sniped out because he cannot move and he's a big target. But it is really cheap. And I'll get into this later, but caskets can actually be very good at clearing out infantry. Right. Next to Arkin. One of the best death casts in the game. I have never been as high on death magic as a lot of people, but he is definitely a very, very good lord. He's got a Spirit Leech. He's got Doom and Darkness. He's got Buna. You know, you can kill single entities. You can kill the Cav unit. You can help route stuff off. He's got Spirit or Life Leeching for more WOM. Staff of Nagash and then Tombblade are both auto takes on him. Just the WOM regen and the cooldowns, and then, you know, it takes a while to get them out, but I have had games with him where you just get the 5th summon out of the skeletons against like something, and it just barely grinds them down enough to make a difference. Yeah. Liber Mortis, not really a big fan. It just doesn't have a long enough duration to really have an impact. Again, you put him on horse. You don't bother with the chariot. But yeah, again, I'm not a huge Arkin fan as much as a lot of people are, but he is good in a lot of matchups. All right. Now to my favorite of all of them, and the one I am very glad got buffed to being viable a while back in Cetra. The magic, same as on Katep, but the abilities, you just take Restless Fed. The others are just expensive and don't do a whole lot. The items are kind of the same. I know a lot of people like the blessed blade, but 200 gold goes a long way on the Tomb King's roster. So it's just hard to pick that up when it's, the difference between an extra skeleton or an extra horseman and whatnot.
Hmm.
Obviously, his mount, you basically only ever take him if you want him on the Sphinx. Hypothetically, he's a decent duelist on his horse, but then you're just getting really expensive hybrid caster duelist, and I just generally don't think that's worth it. Like, I know I used to take him on horse against like Nurgle to help fight the heroes, but then I kind of stopped. I'll get to that later. Uh, but yeah, really good on the War Sphinx. Just can clear out insane amounts of infantry. And one of the really big things is he just never crumbles. Like he'll be at 200 health and not crumble. I've had many games against like Kaiju where Kaiju is just raging that he is somehow not crumbling. But yeah, just shafts and Syrians and can just roll through infinite infantry. He's a beast.
All
All
right.
right. Heroes. The Necrotect. I don't think he's that great. Restore is nice if you've got expensive constructs. The two buffs are cool, but just not really impactful enough for me to ever want them. Fan Brace of the Sun is great. Minus 24, 24 just permanently is legitimately insane.
Hmm.
And I think if it was on a lot of characters, it would be one of those things people constantly would want nerfed, but he's just not a great fighter. He's got low health, his weapon strength is bad, and his only mount is a chariot. So if you want him like supporting your cav fights and helping swing those with his van braces, he's on a really bad mount that's quite expensive. So it's just he's not bad per se, but just there's a lot of other things you can spend your money on that are better, in my opinion. So yeah, if you really want like the restores on your Necros, Sphinxes, or whatnot, he's fine, but not great. Tomb Prince, they're weird. I think they're good, but you just don't really need them on the roster very much. Uh, I don't really like Guardian that much. It's just usually you have him running around with like one of the constructs to help basically Goon Squad. So it's not it doesn't apply to them, so it's not as useful. Curse of Jath, it's one of those things where if you have the money for it, sure, but a rampage is great, but if he has to be half dead to use it, you're just almost never going to get it in the right spot. Tomb Strike, I don't see it. Base weapon strength on a AP character, melee attack, eh. And then terror, well, you usually want him with the terror causing character anyway, so it's not really great. I don't see the point in making him stock. Then the Blade of Setep, I don't know. I could see it against like a Garbrand if you're bringing archers, but I don't know. I usually just take him basically naked on horse as like a Goon Squad character because he's an anti-large armor piercing character, just a good fighter to help kill single entities. Yeah, I think he's fine. He is exactly where melee heroes should be. Lich Priest, they they're fine. They're generic casters. You take them with Kalita or a Tomb King, which is unfortunately not very often, especially since you already have really good legendary lord casters of Death and Nahakara. So you really only specifically would want light on these guys for the net, which, nets are always good, but I've never found them super important on the roster. Uh, the, yeah, his abilities, Cursed Khazar, armor debuff is not useful. The Wind's ability is always good on like every single character, so you take it. And then the goddamn spell resist item, I don't know what to think of it. It's like on one hand, you should be able to use it to negate Burning Head, and that if you could get it to work properly, that would actually be huge for the Tomb King's roster. But it's just so hard to get the timing right. So and it's like if he's not exactly where you need and you don't have it ready to go when it gets cast, it does nothing for you. So yeah, that's the heroes done. On to the infantry. Uh, Skeletons. The spears are really, really good. They just hold forever. They have a lot of HP. They have charge defense and bonus versus large. They don't really deal any damage to most stuff, but they will definitely hold, which is what you want. The warriors, they're fine. They also don't really deal damage, and they die a lot quicker, but it's still a lot of health to get through. Generally, you only take the warriors if you either need more frontline that is cheap and already have 5 spears, or if you really, really need the money to save from the 25 gold difference, but I don't know. They're fine. Spears are better in most matchups, other than like dwarves or whatever. Dwarves, Coast, any sort of faction where you're gonna have to rush them is really the only time I take the swordman. The Hakara warriors. I want to like these guys, but they're just they're the aggressive dual weapon infantry with no shields, light armor. They're supposed to be your infantry, like blend or well, they're supposed to be your chaff clears, but their damage is fine. But losing shields on the Tomb King's roster is a really big deal. And they're still really, really slow because they're skeletons. So any faction that has any sort of shooting is just going to pepper them on approach, and they're just going to die. If you do get them into a fight, or if your opponent doesn't have ranged, against light armored stuff, they do really well. But generally, they're not going to be great. Oh yeah, these guys. ROR spears. They're slightly better spears. They have a little bit more armor, which is definitely nice. They have poison, expert charge defense. They're just tankier. They are good for that, but generally 225 gold for a slightly tankier chaff unit is not worth it all that often. If you have the money, go for it, but I don't generally like them. All right, Tomb Guard. They're good, but you don't need them. At least the basic ones. The stats are great, the weapon strength's great, HP is great, silver shields are great. Armor is decent, but generally my issue is you're still vulnerable to the same things that skeletons are. any sort of infantry blenders or chaff clearing spells still obliterates them perfectly fine. Like, they still die to Burning Head, they still die to Witch Elves. If they just get to grind stuff that is not an infantry blender, they do quite well. They have good stats, really good weapon strength, and then they get the passive healing from Tomb King's roster. But there are a few places I take them, but there's just always a gamble if your opponent brings dedicated infantry clearing, which against Tomb Kings they should. They're just going to be a waste of money. The Halberds are a lot better. They are not an auto take, but really not too many rosters get cheap shielded halberd units. They deal really good damage against large. They're shielded, so you can't really shoot them. Still vulnerable to the same things that the rest of the Tomb King's infantry is, in that they die to anything that kills infantry. But, you know, I usually don't use them as a front line. Just take one or two to put in the back to ward off cavalry or any sort of dive. I know you don't like the expensive infantry in the back line, but that is, in my opinion, the best way to use them, especially since you don't really care about the front line. Kepregard. I am probably one of the lowest people who plays Tomb Kings on the Kepregard. They kill chaff really well. They can punch up against infantry pretty well, even like armor stuff. But man, with the cats now, you don't really care that much about infantry. It's just, yeah, yes, if the end game comes down to, 5 peasant spearmen versus my Kepregard, the Kepregard will grind them out. But that doesn't mean that much if it never gets to that point, because your opponent will usually either have lost or have won by the point it comes down to just the Kepregard. A lot of people do like them. They are definitely very good at their job, which is killing infantry. I just don't value that very highly on the roster right now with the way that the cats currently are. Like, I don't know. Killing chaff is not that important anymore. The archers.
Long
the
list.
archers suffer from the. Huh?
Long list.
Yes. The archers suffer from being on the same roster as great bows. So they're good, but they're just. They're not. They don't have AP. The ROR has armor sundering, which is nice, but. Oh, and extra range. I forgot about that. They just don't really deal tons of damage. They're hard to protect. Very squishy. They're very cheap, decent archers. And there are definitely a few matchups I take them. If you want to shoot, if you just want like weight of fire against big SEMs, they're definitely good. If you're gonna take them en masse with the ROR to just pour fire into specific targets is how I always use them when I take them. But again, not particularly impressive, but also not bad. And that is done with the infantry, and I need water.
Okay.
All right, I have water with me. I forgot.
He's back.
All right, I'm good. Now we get to the probably most underrated part of the roster for people who don't play them. So I know I've heard you say that you don't like them before, in the cavalry.
Yeah, they're bad.
They're not bad, and I will explain why. They are cheap. They are very cheap, and they are unbreakable.
Okay.
The basic ones are 400 gold for a light cav unit with okay stats, a decent amount of HP, and did I mention they're unbreakable because they're undead? And did I mention they're really cheap? So you can just throw them, huh?
Bloated corpses are unbreakable, and they're still shit.
Yes, but bloated corpses die in one fight.
Hey, so
Skeleton
do these
horsemen,
guys.
yes, but the important thing is that they last more than a second. You can
They
just
last
throw
2
them at stuff.
seconds. All right,
They last more than that.
I'll quit being a shitter. I do have a low opinion of them, but I'll stop derailing your train.
You can, yeah, you can just throw them at stuff to keep it away from your important units, while you use stuff like Assyrians and the Great Bows to murder all cav that can threaten your important units. Generally, or you can just cav swarm, which is a completely valid tactic with Tomb Kings right now. Is just load up on all the cav you can get, and your opponent simply cannot deal with the fact that I have 12 cavalry units running around, and I can still field a front line and big expensive SEMs that can clear out stuff. They do not deal damage. I accept that. They deal 0 damage on anything with more than like 10 melee defense, but they are really, really, really good, and one of the reasons Tomb Kings are good right now. Basically the same for the Nahakara Horsemen, except these guys are even tankier. And really anything that isn't a anything below like heavy cav status or seekers cannot clear them fast if they do not get like a rear charge or something. And again, they are really cheap. They are unbreakable. You throw them at stuff to protect your backline, and you buy time to deal damage with your actually important units.
Okay.
They have been good for ages, and I maintain that if Tomb Kings do get more nerfs, it should probably be on the cav, because that's part of the roster I think is the best right now for their price.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on them?
This video needs to end at some point, so I will acquiesce to your expertise, sir.
All right. The Chariots, the Chariots are good. They plow through light chaff really well. They're insanely tanky for what you think. Like, I have gotten them stuck in Dragon Princes and Silver Helms, and like 3 or 4 models will die, and the rest will pull out and just keep on rolling through archers. They're great disruption. You know, they're not going to kill heavy infantry. They don't kill armor, but they're a really good disruption and shaft killers. All right, and now we get to the part of the roster that is the most disappointing to me in the Necronites.
Dude, I don't.
They're
like,
models.
There are people in my clan that stan these guys, and they're like, no, you just don't understand. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Winning games is also pretty fun. Like,
Yes, I have tried to make them work so often. They just cannot hit stuff. Their animations are so bad. Even their stats are just exceptionally mediocre. Like, okay, the basic ones are just generalist units, solid stats, but nothing's particularly good. The halberds are your anti-large variant. If you ever wanted to be depressed, go compare them to like skin wolves. It's so sad. And people tell me, like, most people agree the halberd ones are terrible, but like there are people who think the regular ones are good. I have literally had one rear charge a unit of handgunners, and every single model whiffed on the charge and didn't hit. They just the models are janky, so sometimes they can just get through stuff. But man,
they are wildly inconsistent.
yeah. Yeah, so I've had times where they do great and they surround and hit stuff and kill stuff, but man, they just miss. They're also not as tanky as you'd think. They just take a lot of chip damage from any sort of archer fire. If you leave them in spears for any duration of time, they take a lot of damage. They're the what I have been pushing for buffs for them for ages. I don't think anyone I don't think I've gotten anywhere with it, but I think they're not very good. All right, horse archers, really really good. Some of the best skirmish cav in the game. Uh, they're cheap. They are unbreakable. Notice a trend with the cavalry. Their damage is solid. You know, don't shoot at armored, shielded infantry. They're not going to kill chaos warriors, but they poke stuff down really well, and just generally are a nuisance. You can use them as dogs late game to chase stuff down. They're still cavalry that is unbreakable, so if you need to, you can throw them in to body block. It's generally a really, really solid skirmish cav unit that is almost an auto take in the roster right now. Uh, Skeleton archer chariots. They are skeleton chariots, but 150 gold more expensive because they get a exceptionally bad ranged attack. You just never take them.
All right.
I have thought you just don't. Maybe you want to cheese the attacking rule with them is the only possible explanation, but they're just not good, especially with the horse archers where they are. It just doesn't matter.
All right.
All right. Monsters and beasts. Carrion. They are flying dogs, except they cannot deal damage. You use them to run stuff off. They are very good at that. I also have a few builds where I use them to basically body block Furies, because they are very tanky for being 350 gold. You block like one or two of the Furies, which lets you clean up the ones that do land and just slow down that. But generally, they're pretty niche. I don't think they need buffs per se, but you just don't have a whole lot of use for them in the roster beyond running stuff off and body blocking flyers. Shabdi, they're mass. They can kill chaff on impact damage, but they're tanky mass, and that's about it, in my opinion. They have abysmal melee attack. Like 23 for 900 gold is legitimately awful. Their bonus versus infantry is 12, so even against infantry, they're going to struggle to hit a lot of anything decent. I take them if I need monstrous mass that can sit on top of spears, but I generally don't think they're good. I know a lot of people have thought they were good before, and they got a little bit of a buff to their bonus versus infantry. They just don't deal that much damage. They're just tanky. That's about it. I don't value them that highly. Tomb Scorpion. After me hating on them for years, they are actually decent now with the collision attacks. They were always super tanky, but now they actually deal damage to go with it. You know, they cause terror. They're anti-infantry. They can if you get multiple of them, they can gank single entities pretty well. Just the 400 weapon strength for 1,000 gold is very good. You take them if you basically want another hard to kill infantry disruptor that causes terror, like against Skaven. I take them against dwarves. Just they're in a very good spot where they're they have a specific use, and they're good at that. But they're by no means in every army. Hyro Titans. Such a sad unit. They're basically a giant. But if you took away what makes a giant actually good and replaced it with some mediocre magic buffs, like they lose a lot of melee attack compared to a giant. They lose a lot of weapon strength compared to a giant. And they are a lot more expensive than a giant for similar mobility. But it's just they're not particularly punishing if you do get them in melee, and a lot of the times you just can't get them into melee. The bounce spells are fine. Spirit Leech is always good. Shems is, well, it's there. You throw it at something, it does some damage. I know some people have tried like spell mastery shenanigans with like Arcane and Spirit Leech and whatnot as like Lord Snipes. You can do it. I don't think it's great. They're just on the roster. They're supposed to be a big beat stick that you throw against stuff, but they just struggle to ever get into a fight they want. All right. Now on to the really good units. The Necrosphinx is amazing. He is extremely mobile, has a lot of mass to get through stuff, armored, an amazing duelist. He can fight. There is basically nothing short of like Shredder of Lustria that outclasses the Necrosphinx as a duelist. It is also good at clearing cav, even like heavy anti-large AP cav, as long as it's not isolated. Like if you just throw it in with like a basic skeleton horseman against stuff that far outclasses them, it will just win and do very, very well. Yeah. Does decent into infantry. Not great, but it's a big terror-causing monster with collision attacks. It does fine there. The ROR is just better. The big thing is the magic damage, like if you're fighting like demons and whatnot. But also, it is a lot tankier. 800 health and 10 melee defense. You very much feel it on a lot of fights where the ROR, its health goes down a lot slower. Fire resist is nice too for fighting like Scarbrand. A lot of the big, scary duelists in the game have fire damage, like this one. So just taking a little bit less damage is always nice. All right. Now to the units that used to carry the roster single-handedly in the shooting constructs. Oh wait, I'll get to them later. Great bows. They are really, really good. They are weapons teams where they have really low models that are hard to pick off, that all do really good damage, and they're also really fast and have a lot of mass and hard to kill. It is one of the units that basically any roster would love to have because they are just so hard to pin down and kill while also dealing a lot of damage. They have really good range. They are heavily countered by cannons and Giselles, but if your opponent doesn't have one of those, they are basically unopposed at range and can kite back against basically anything. There is really nothing that can threaten them at range besides those. And then Chosen of the Gods are straight up just one of the best units in the game. You had them at like 5th on your ROR list. I think they're legitimately number 1. But their damage is insane against... Huh?
Can they beat Slanesh literally single-handed? Because otherwise I think the train might still be number 1.
No, but legitimately, I think if you take them away from Tomb Kings fall to low B.
Okay.
They define so many different matchups for the Tomb Kings, and they can just kill so much cavalry. They're great into single entities that are bigger than a horse. They're good into infantry. They're decent enough even to like monstrous infantry, and that's like their worst target. So at worst, you're getting decent shots off. And again, the same thing with the regular Boshafti. Fast and hard to pin down, and just an insane amount of damage. They are they were always really good, but now that the roster is where it is, where you don't need to kill or you don't worry about heavy infantry as much, you just delete cavalry so well with them. I love them.
I can tell.
They are my favorite unit in the game. Stalkers. Um, they used to be in the carry the roster category, but I find myself taking them a lot less than I used to before the Sphinx changes. They're not good in melee. Don't let the anti-large fool you. If if they don't get to like brace against a cav charge, they don't deal damage. Their melee attack is terrible. Their weapon strength is mediocre. They don't have a lot of health. They don't have great stats in general. But they are, again, weapon teams. Their best part is their range, which the range does a lot of damage. They are the best Durthu killers in the game. They can just any sort of big single entity that gets in front of them, they can just blast down really, really fast. Their biggest issue, though, is they are unfortunately line of sighted a lot. They just can't shoot stuff a lot of the time, and it's very frustrating. Again, they have Vanguard. I don't think it's all that useful. I usually use them to help protect backlines if I take them. Stock is great. Even when you don't take them at all, the fact that they stock means your opponent doesn't know whether or not you took them. So they have to kind of just in the back of their head know that, hey, there might be stalkers somewhere. I don't know where, but they just might exist somewhere. So, yeah.
Okay.
They're still very good, but I just don't take them as much as I used to.
Okay.
All right. Eyes of the Desert. Pretty similar. They get the missile resist, which is nice. They get poison, which is decent. You do feel the extra stats, but generally, I do like they're still good. If you have the money, take them. If you don't, it's not a big deal. All right, on to the Bone Giant. I know a lot of people who think the Bone Giant is too strong. They are good at one thing and one thing only, in my opinion, and that is artillery duels. They can kill cannons really well, unless it's dwarf cannons, in which case they have troubles hitting the models. Bolt throwers are a little bit more iffy because they don't hit the models a lot of the time. But the big thing is they have just 12,000 HP is a lot for cannons to get through. And they will usually kill cannons within 6 or so shots. So that's really their use case. They're not great against single entities because they're so easy to dodge. You just move one way, they shoot, you turn, they miss. But and then in the late game, when they've run out of ammo and whatnot, they're a big terror-causing SCM with a lot of health. They suck at actually killing anything, but they exist. They're you know, it's a definite thing that can help you in the late game if you bring them. All right, and then now on to the last part of the missile monsters and beasts, which is in no way an actual missile monster, but it has a missile attack, I guess. The Cambrian War Sphinx. These guys changed the roster so much when they got collision attacks. You now don't have to worry about single entity spam, or not single entity, armored infantry spam. I can think, but you just charge them around through infantry. They kill them really, really well. They're also good into cavalry. You just, again, charge them in and out. You don't let them get surrounded and stuck in Grail Knights, obviously, but they just do what they do really, really well, and that is kill infantry and be tanky. They're not great duelists. I have had people try to tell me that, oh no, they can kill single entities. They cannot. Even if they get their bonus versus infantry, they just suck at killing single entities. Their stats are just bad. It doesn't work. But yeah, these guys are great if you ever want to kill infantry. They're your best tool for that.
They have 200 ammo. That seems OP.
Yes. Luckily, the ammo does about 3 damage per shot, so it's balanced.
Missile strength is one of those stats that I just don't think CA knows how to code. Because, like, 145 missile strength looks like a lot, and then they do literally nothing. Like, that, it looks like they're as strong as the Screaming Skull Catapult. Because the Screaming Skull Catapult's missile strength is 150.
Yeah, that is the fakest missile strength I have ever seen in my life. That is actually... I've never looked at it too closely because I don't care, but man, that is so fake. They do not deal 87 damage. Yeah, but like if you look at the actual like individual stat, it says each missile has like 87 weapon strength. That is so fake. They do not deal that much damage.
They definitely do not.
All right, onto actual units. Catapults of the Screaming Skulls. I hate them. I think they're terrible. They cannot hit anything. Sure, if you get a direct hit on expensive infantry or archers, they do a lot of damage. I will not argue that fact. They cannot hit anything to save their life. It is... I hate... They're usable against stuff like Greenskins that has low leadership, where the artillery hit plus the leadership debuff plus the damage from a direct hit can just instantly rout a unit. I have used them. I mean, I have used them so often, and they just can't hit stuff. They're one of the reasons why, for so long, Tomb Kings couldn't kill armored infantry, because their armor-piercing artillery cannot hit stuff. I don't like them. They're bad. They are not like among the memeiest units in the game, but they are not far off either.
Okay. All right.
And now to a unit that I have a completely different opinion on, and I know a lot of people like a lot less than I do, in the Casket of Souls. I think they're solid. Realistically, at like long range, they suck. If your opponent is not in like a really tight box, they struggle to hit individual lines like the catapults do. But at the same time, it's when you get them into like the closer range where they really start to shine. Because I have used them, like, you have them on one end of your formation. You shoot them at like infantry that's engaged on the other end, and they arc like a mortar, and they can just obliterate units. Like bloodletters, I've had them basically take 2/3 of a bloodletter off on like a single shot.
Damn.
The Yeah. The missile strength for them is fake because it's actually a lot more than that they can deal in one shot. Yeah.
Missile strength
They
is a
are
fake
very
stat.
easy to yeah. They're very easy to snipe is a definite thing. There are also like use cases if you have like terrain you can hide them behind. Like I know I had a game against Grand Cathay a while ago on like Sword of Torgald where there's like the house and I just put it behind the house and blasted away at the Cathay box and they couldn't get to the casket because it was behind the house, so the cannons couldn't shoot. So yeah, arcing artillery, single entity. It is the kind of thing that terrain can really, really help be viable, even in matchups where it shouldn't usually be good. But yeah, here's my lament for the extended roster. Give me the Storm Riders of Khazar. They are totally not OP with insane stats.
They seem very OP with insane stats.
Yeah,
I don't approve of this.
Yeah, that's the Tomb King's roster.
All right,
I think we got everything.
We're going a bit long, so I only do one example.
Oops.
This is where I pull up a random faction, and then you talk us through your build, like why you're taking each unit. Not just like, take this, and then that's it. It's like, okay, I'm grabbing the spears because blank, I'm grabbing this because that, right? Yep. Let's think of an interesting one. Not one that's too favored for either side. What about walk?
Walk. Take one I haven't played in a while. Yeah. I think it is.
Makes you think about it and explain your thoughts.
Yeah. It is a Cetra matchup, like so many others. It's a double cat matchup, like so many others right now. But what is it? You know, take the 5 skeletons, Chosen of the Gods, a great bow or two, some horsemen to block. Trying to think. I unfortunately deleted all of my builds accidentally, so I have them saved. Yeah, you take the skeleton spears for the front line. I think 5 is fine. This is not a matchup where you need to hard box. You just need something to buffer and buy you a little bit of time. I know usually it's Forsaken you see here, and they will get through spears pretty quick, but that you don't really care that much about Forsaken. The main thing is the cav fights. You got to clear out the throwing axes. They can't throw at your cats. You got to kill usually Archaon, so he can't go kill Cetra. I have seen Spawn, which are kind of a pain to deal with, but as long as you don't get your single entities surrounded in them and stuck, you're fine. Use the horses as blockers. What else do I have? Probably third archer. But yeah. Yeah, you use the great bows to pick off the cav, whether it be the skirmish cav or the like rot knights are pretty common here, I think. The horse archers, again, they just poke at stuff. They poke at skirmish cav. Giants are one of the things that are actually good against Tomb Kings because they just fuck up the cats really well. Even the ROR Necrosphinx loses to them. So you kind of just gotta avoid fighting it. Yeah. You just this, like so many others, is basically you have to clear the cav fights first. Assyrians down everything. Overcast Jafts on the cav to fight. Basically screen out Archaon with the Necrosphinx. Archaon will lose that fight very, very hard and does not want any part of it. use Cetra to cycle charge stuff wherever you can. Yeah. Realistically, it's a pretty basic matchup for Tomb Kings. It's just how you play it, what you see. I don't know.
Kolek Suneater.
Kolek Suneater. He is food for great bows. And he is not even going to do that well against the ROR Necrosphinx, despite being, like, hypothetically what should be the elite of the elite for anti-large SEM duelists. You
But-
just poke away at him.
But he's got 25% missile resistance.
And the great bows deal a lot of damage.
Yeah,
What is
Kolek,
this?
Kolek has been shrunk down
What
to
do you-
even be in this game. He's supposed to be like the size of a mountain, and this dude only has 9,000
Yeah.
HP.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
Make him the Shredder of Lustrious size.
But like, seriously though, 9,000 HP
Yeah,
is
I know.
so outscaled in this game.
He's got 3,000 less than a giant. That's sad. He's got less than Cetra, not a cat.
Yeah, I'm looking around
Rough.
at other things to see how he compares. He does have 3,000 less than a giant. Does he have less than Dragon Ogre Shaggoth? No, he has 400 more.
That seems like not enough.
That seems like not enough more. Bilious Thunderguff has 5,000 HP more than him.
Apparently, Kolek needs to devote himself to Nurgle.
I guess.
Well, by the way, how much did Hayseed pay you to mention Kolek?
A lot. A lot. So much. I'm looking through the Greenskin roster right now. He's actually got comparable HP to a Colossal Squig. 300 different.
That's does not feel right.
So, big Squig or a guy that sleeps across mountains? That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Wait, how does he compare to Dwarf Lords? Oh, okay. He's chilling. He's got like 1,000 more HP than Thorgrim Grudgebearer.
That is something.
That feels right. That feels correct. Okay.
2,000 more than Scarsnake.
Alright. Alright, Inkars. I've distracted you for long enough. This might be our longest guide. We hit over an hour.
Damn. I talk a lot, I guess.
You were very passionate about all the units on your roster. How dare you?
I was told to explain each unit.
That's true. That's true. You could have just said Skeleton Horseman, bad. Nahakar Horseman, bad. Skeleton Horse Archers,
I
very good.
will not lie.
Skeleton Horse Archers are
I
very good.
will never accept your vendetta against a very good unit.
Okay. Okay. I don't know about very good. I think the highest I could accept is passable. But
They do their job amazingly well.
yeah.
That is a very good unit.
Okay. If their job is sucking and dying, whatever. All
It
right.
is! That's every unit that isn't a construct on the roster.
Okay. So Khalidah's job is to suck and die?
Yes.
She ain't a
Well,
construct.
no, but... I mean, she is a... Well, she doesn't have the tag, but she's basically a construct on her snake.
What if she's just on foot?
Well, then she sucks and dies.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Incars. Thank you for your expertise. You want to shout out your YouTube
Adios.
tag, your Twitter, your Instagram?
No. I have none of those.
Okay, you want to shout
At
out
least
your,
not that I do anything.
your League of Legends profile pic?
I have played exactly one game of League of Legends, like 8 or 9 years ago. Have no interest in returning.
All right, what if I retire from Warhammer and start a League of Legends pro team?
I will be very sad and no longer watch your content.
God damn it. Okay. Well, that was the part where you say, "That's it. I'm coming with you, boss." Are you gonna play in the faction war?
Yeah,
Are you gonna?
we'll see. I'll
You know,
probably do Tim Kings.
yeah. Already 22 people signed up, and I just posted it today.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
I mean, his first like big open event in a while, at least for like land battles.
Okay, so that feels accusatory, and I am doing my best. So now my feelings
I mean,
are
it's not like it's your fault. It's more there is no one else but you doing stuff.
Yeah, take that, Tequila Sunset and
At least
Lich.
not big stuff.
Get wrecked.
Now you're just making it seem like I'm attacking everyone.
Yeah, that's generally my go-to. Hey, thank you for your time. I'm gonna go to bed, and I have work tomorrow. Ugh, gross.
Imagine not being a college student.
Imagine. Roar. Subscribe, yes, yes.